Hello, everybody. You're tuned in to the Sexy Asian Dragon, and yes, keep it right here and keep it sexy. Here's the deal. Today we're going to talk about something interesting. Check that out. This was given to me by a Filipina. That, my friends, is a dragon with his tail wrapped around a big ball. Today we're going to talk about dragons and demons, specifically dragons and Satan and demonic activity. I think it's a very appropriate subject to discuss. But before we get started, this is brought to you today by Philippine brand 100% coconut water. This is from Cebu, imported all the way to the United States, and you can get it at Walmart in Lakewood, Colorado. Pacific is not complete without his sustenance coming directly from the Philippines. It's kind of like Superman and kryptonite. If I don't get my mango, if I don't get my coconut or banana, even though the bananas are a product of Guatemala, I gotta have my connection to Asia. Viewers, let's get into some meaty stuff today, shall we? Let's have some fun. I went out and shoveled the driveway this morning. Our driveway's not a standard driveway. It's big. You can fit about 15 vehicles in here. Put the shovel down, and I run like a pickup plow. Drop the blade, I ram forward, and I just keep doing that in strokes, sections at a time, and got the whole thing blasted off. Even did a path for the doggy to go running from her dog door around to the front of the house. Churches were shut today. I don't know if mine was. I called, there was no answer. There was nothing online. But I just looked online, and a plethora of churches, even those legalistic ones that believe you got to be there every time of the day, shut down. So 8 to 10 inches of snow out here, still flurrying. Got my truck cleaned off. But let's get into this. People are having winter storms. I see flooding in Tennessee. I heard the springs got buried. And yeah, winter's doing a wonderful job, and a shout out to Ivan Hallock up there in Vermont. They've got more snow than they've seen since the 70s. Boston, somewhere between 6 and 10 feet. It's funny, everybody's making drama about this. I'm 48. This used to be normal when I was a kid, folks. I looked up online a 1910 picture of Niagara Falls, frozen solid. Hey, we've had some cold weather long before now, and the news is making drama about this. And they will go on about this all day long. And people will sit in their houses all day today and watch. There's a car crash. This road shut down. They got 4 inches over here. Crazy. So let's start at the beginning. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Indeed, as God said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden. And the woman said to the serpent, From the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat. But from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat from it or touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, You surely shall not die. Liar. For God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. When the woman saw the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took from its fruit and ate, and she gave also to her husband with her, and he ate. And guess what? That act alone gave birth to all of the ills that we deal with today. Ebola, feminism, ISIS, Islam. I'm going to tell you that every evil and every social ill, every sin, and every malfunction is all wrapped up in that one single act. Let's stop right there. We talk about plane crash, little children get killed. How could God allow that to happen? How come we don't ask this question? this is tweaked. Anybody remember that word? Look at my raccoon hat. The tail is just tweaked. I cannot get it straightened out. It looks totally retarded. This is my favorite hat. That's the hat you see on my Facebook post. My little tail. So anyways, yeah, there we go, man. Anybody know where I can get a hold of a good raccoon hat? I'm in the market for one, especially now that the weather's still cold. So here's the deal, folks. I've used the term hard drive infected with the virus. It's amazing. We get so into computers, and computers are very similar. There's some analogies that can be used about computers and the way in which sin is a virus that infected the hard drive of all of God's created world. We ignore this. Now, I got to find this. I didn't mark this out. I marked out other scriptural passages, so I'm on the ball. But we need to just find some here. Hang on a second. Verse 22, Romans chapter 8. For we know that the whole creation groans and suffers the pains of childbirth together until now. And not only this, but also we ourselves, pay attention to that, Christian, having the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting eagerly for our adoption as sons, the redemption of our body. For in a hope we have been saved. We try to put so much stock in this little kingdom now mentality that we all have. Got to have the American dream. Got to have that SUV. Got to have that redneck pickup with the roll bar and the KC lights and the gun rack. The woman. Got to have that hot woman. And we are stupidly ignorant that we don't think deeper and say, God is preparing us for something far greater. But we get too earthly minded. Now, there's two dangers. There are those that are so heavenly minded, there are no earthly good. And there are those that are so worldly that off they go, not giving much testimony to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Most of us Christians in America, if we're honest, we're somewhere between the two. We jump to this side of the fence. We have that bold stand for Christ. And then we run back into the pig pen and squeal with the piggies. And that's part of the battle. Romans talks about that. Paul says, I do the things I do not want to do. The good I want to do, this I do not do, but the evil right there. So I find there's this law at work with me. Whenever I want to do good, evil is right there with me. It's the truth. Start reading verses about the tongue. You want to know what you're all about? Watching somebody cut you off. As somebody once said to me, and it's true of me, and I fail. If you want to know what's inside something, bump it. Glass. You can't see the glass dark. Bump it. What sloshes out? Bump up against another human in life. Don't do this. Don't try this. Don't do this at home because you get punched. Go bump somebody. Forget to use your turn signal. The other day I'm standing at Walmart and an overweight woman, she doesn't say, excuse me, she rams the cart into my butt, says, excuse me, can I get by? Everything in me wanted to turn around and say, do you think you could not ram my butt with the cart and say, excuse me first? And I thought, no, just shut up. Look at her. People are tough to deal with. And can I be honest? There are things that happen in my day-to-day that pull out some pretty nasty, ugly, yucky, filthy, toxic bile right out of my own lips. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Ouch. Anybody feeling that? And the Pharisees didn't get it. They go on and on and on about, your disciples are eating with unwashed hands. Give me a break. I love how Jesus just surfs right through all of the little traps. I mean, he gets on that board and he catches that wave and does the hang 10 and says, watch this, Pharisees. I'm going to shoot the tube right out of your little trap. You know, isn't that awesome? We're not able to do that. We're not as slick as Jesus is. It's not what goes into a mouth that makes a man unclean. It's what comes out. Hello, Pharisees. You dot your I's. You cross your T's. You make up more commands that God, my Father, didn't even make up. And you put all these burdens on men that you yourselves won't even lift a finger to help. You wash the outside of the cup and the inside's filthy. He called them whitewashed sepulchres. That's pretty strong words. Has anybody ever called you a gravestone? Not exactly complimentary. But the serpent lied. You shall not die. We're not going to break into the mechanics of the woman's response. We've already beat that dead horse over and over. But I want you to pay particular attention to what Satan does through the serpent. People ask me, what is the serpent? I don't know. The only people that knew were Adam and Eve. Obviously, because there was nobody around yet. And I really don't think that Adam took the time to write a book on descriptive of the serpent. If Adam is anything like me, when something bad happens, kind of like the accident that my son got into, I don't even like going through that intersection. It's a dark spot to me. I even looked for skid marks or something. There's nothing there. But when I drive down there, I just have this horrific feeling that, wow, that's where things got ugly. I'm pretty sure that after Adam and Eve got booted out of the garden, and there's cherubim with flaming, flashing swords blocking the way, I heard a comedian say that man's walking out saying, nice job, lady, got us kicked out of house and home. As they're walking with fig leaves over them off into the world that would soon become a major burden. And too many of us Americans spend way too much time trying to maintain comfort level. Our priorities are so jacked up, it's not even funny. Mine included. You see my Facebook page? Anybody find paradise down here? Let me know. I'm in. Pick me, pick me. Wow, I got a little point going on here. This thing's been folded up in a mess. What do you do with the devil? Like I said last night, do you stand around rebuking him? No. So check this out. Let's get into something else here. Now, I did not take the time to ferret out all of the scriptural references to Satan, demons, and demonic activity. But let me read you something that is very interesting. Daniel chapter 10, beginning with verse 10. Then behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. And he said to me, O Daniel, man of high esteem, understand the words that I'm about to tell you, and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you. And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood up trembling. Now, why is Daniel trembling? Well, because this isn't just some man that showed up. This is an angel. Verse 12. Then he said to me, do not be afraid, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart on understanding this and on humbling yourself before your God, your words were heard. What are his words? Prayers. And I have come in response to your words. The Bible calls angels spirit sent to minister to those that will inherit salvation. And let's stop right there, because there was Touched by an Angel in the 90s. And then everybody was on this angel kick in the 90s. You know, people cutely say, well, I have a little guardian angel. No, you don't. You either are in Christ or you're out of Christ. If you're in Christ, He will never leave you nor forsake you. Getting caught up in speculations about angels and running off with all these cutesy little caricatures of little pudgy things with wings on them isn't going to cut it. Because number one, every time there's an angel that showed up, sometimes, as in the case of John in Revelation, he bows down and starts to worship. They have a degree of glory about them that we can't even begin to comprehend. But then the Bible talks about, be careful to entertain strangers, for people have entertained angels unawares. We don't know. Now, we got to be careful that we don't make stuff walk on all fours. Does anybody remember in the late 80s, Frank Peretti, Piercing the Darkness, or This Present Darkness? Remember those? Great books. Michael W. Smith even did a song or a piece of music that he thought represented that. I read the book. It was great, but I was in my 20s and I was caught up in the euphoria. Ooh, you start going to work, man, there's demons. Ooh, grab the parking brake. There's demons over the college as well. There is. We need to be very careful that we don't look for devils behind every bush and look for angels everywhere. We need to focus on Christ. So in verse 12, this angel says, I've come in response to your words, your prayers. Now catch this and don't miss it, viewers. Verse 13, Daniel chapter 10. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia was withstanding me for 21 days. Now let's stop right there. How can a prince, a male, physical, flesh and blood human being, withstand an angel? You can't. So then you have to kick into some other thinking here. Who is he referring to? A literal governing prince on a throne? No. How about the principality behind the place? The Prince of Persia. One of Satan's minions? I think so. Let's continue. Because the verse kind of interprets that for us. Because guess who shows up? In the middle of verse 13, then behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia. Who's withstanding this angel? Demon? Michael the archangel stands up and says, excuse me, out, and deals with it. And this angel takes off to come to Daniel. We have no idea what is going on. We must refresh what I talked about last night. This is a hard one for me because I get too caught up in the physical world. When people do something, I get mad because it's a person. Verse 12, Ephesians chapter 6. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Do you sometimes find that hard to believe? It's people that cut me off, not demons. It's people in my life. Ex-wife, teens on the bus, people in cars, overweight woman ramming my buns with a shopping cart. Welcome to Walmart. Grab your stuff and go. And hit everybody on the way out. It's hard for me to believe our struggle isn't against flesh and blood. There's personalities out there I don't like. We don't want to major on the minor. We don't want to take a little verse and build an entire kingdom out of it. A lot of Christians do that. We call them hobby horses. A couple of examples of that. People who believe you can lose your salvation. People who believe in King James Version only-ism. People who believe you must speak in tongues is to prove that you're filled with the Holy Spirit. People who teach that you don't get the Spirit when you're saved. Whoa, Ephesians 1, shoot that out of the water. Having believed, you were sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise, which is the deposit guaranteeing our inheritance. Don't believe the lies. And don't get on a hobby horse. Take the whole counsel of God from Genesis to Revelation. Calvinism is another one that's a total hobby horse. It goes way off. Maligns the character and love and grace of God. And makes him out to a capricious, good old boys club that he picks a select few and says, sorry, bye-bye. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. But the prince of Persia withstood me 21 days. We're not talking about a man here. We're talking about a demon. So, let's get into a couple things. Jude. There's only one chapter. Verse 9. But Michael, the archangel, when he disputed with the devil and argued about the body of Moses, did not dare pronounce against him a railing judgment, but said, the Lord rebuke you. Let me read that again. But Michael, the archangel, when he disputed with the devil and argued about the body of Moses, did not dare pronounce against him a railing judgment, but said, the Lord rebuke you. How many Christians have you met? And I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on the ladies in the charismatic church because too many women in the charismatic movement really have embraced more feminism and less spirit. You know, they're always going to try to tell me what to do and counsel me, and they're going to be an authority over me. I've been through this. Potter's House, Prescott, Arizona. You need to be filled with the Holy Spirit. I am filled with the Holy Spirit. I was sealed with him the day I believed. Oh, you go to that Baptist church, that cold place up on top of the hill. Okay, I understand it may be cold, but they do teach right doctrine. You guys jumping around and running around like a fire in the place and speaking in tongues, bring in a linguistics expert and they will tell you that they're not speaking an intelligible language. Let's go somewhere else. Maybe I should have said, let's talk about angels, demons, and dragons. I was bringing some angel stuff into this, and that's okay. Demons are losers. Did you know Satan took a third of the angels with him? Wow. Pretty amazing, huh? Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. Now at that time, Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise. Who's your people? That's Israel. And there will be a time of distress such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. Let's go somewhere else, because scriptures are coming to me as we go on about this. Revelation 12, verse 7, and there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels waged war. Notice, it doesn't call them demons. They were angels. Angels in rebellion. Isn't that interesting? There's no salvation for fallen angels. Consider yourself blessed, brother and sister, that you have obtained righteous standing because of a loving, holy God. Because even when angels rebelled, there is no forgiveness, no salvation for them. They will be assigned into the lake of fire. That should humble all of us as people. When we think we're all that in a bag of chips, God is not even going to redeem the angels that turned demons and rebelled. That's heavy stuff. Verse 8, and they were not strong enough. Who was that? The devil and his angels. And there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. Let me tell you something, Christian. Are you with me? Have you not ever felt fear when you feel and sense the presence of the devil? Things are just working against you. The devil seems to have the upper hand. I'll tell you what. I'd be a liar to say that sometimes I don't feel downright intimidated. Sometimes I do. I look at his followers. I look at people. It's kind of scary out there. They're in the majority right now, by the way. And you can say whatever you want. I'm not afraid. Give it time. When they get up in your face and things are surrounding you and it looks like you could lose your life, you'll be just like David. Oh, God, please. I can't praise you from the grave. It's normal. But always remember, no matter how menacing and how much noise the devil makes, and I have to quote Venus Star, the loudest people are the emptiest. Empty vessels make the loudest noise. Stop and look in your own life about women and men that you see that are bragging, talk loud, empty. Everybody point to your head. A little kid taught me this when I was in school. Everybody point to your head and say the initials of mountain. If I have to tell you the punchline, you didn't get it. And they were not strong enough, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. Did you know that the devil and his angels can approach God? We need to remind you again, don't we? Let's put a bookmark there, because I'm not done with that. Let's go back to Job. Jobster, man. I'm telling you. Verse 6, chapter 1 of Job. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. Do you stop and let that sink in? Satan can walk right in there. And the Lord said to Satan, where do you come? God knows where the devil's been. But I want you to notice something about God. God is asking him a question not because he needs to know the answer. God is very cool with himself, and he says, so, what are you doing? Where are you coming from? It's God's way of saying, I'm in charge here, not you. And God doesn't look at Satan and say, hey, homie. Where do you come? Look, today's teen girls can't even answer a question. You be nice to them and they won't even answer. And even Satan has to answer God. Satan answered the Lord and said, from roaming about on the earth and walking around on it. You want to talk about boring? Can you imagine being the devil who was in glory with God? And he's wandering around the earth trying to stir up the pot and stir up trouble. Let's see, what has Satan given birth to? Islam, Mormonism, Buddhism, communism, evolution, feminism. Should we continue? Humanism? Any belief system that denies that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. Any belief system that denies that Jesus Christ was God is from the pit of hell. Any belief system that contradicts this book has its origins in Babel. Let me say that again. Any belief system that has tenets of their faith that contradict this book has its origins in Babel. There's only two threads that run through Scripture, folks. The atonement, blood being shed for sins, laid out in specific, explicit, careful detail in the Old Testament as to what the Jews were to give for certain sins and transgressions. Fulfilled 100%, lock, stock, and barrel in the person and Lord of Jesus Christ. And he said, it is finished. And those Orthodox Jews that are running around sacrificing stuff and putting yarmulkes on their head and doing all their stuff, is all for vain. If you don't put your hope and faith in Christ, there is no hope of salvation for you. Let me make that crystalline clear. Satan has given birth to a lot of things. From roaming about on the earth and walking around on it. What a loser. And everybody that is under him is a loser. Every human being that is under the authority of the devil is a loser. You don't become a winner until you put your faith in Christ Jesus. I don't care how many SUVs you have. I don't care what expensive car collection you have. There's a Ford GT right now that's $250,000. Don't even get me started on that. We got big problems in the world, and we're still pumping out cars that are so frivolous. There is no car worth $250,000. I don't care if it's the only one in its kind. That all gave birth from the garden. If we'd have done what we were supposed to do, we wouldn't have engines and pollutants and gas and insurance and bills and skyscrapers and sewer systems and all the craziness that goes on that we think this is living. I'm sorry, but the older I get, I think, man, Adam and Eve had it so good. Want some fruit, babe? In Colorado, you got to go to Whole Foods or Sprouts or Vitamin Cottage and pay big markup for organic. Do you know the Garden of Eden was organic? No pesticides. The arrogance of evolutionistic teaching is unbelievable. They'll laugh and mock at the Bible's account, and yet it's a fact. God did create the earth in 6 literal 24-hour days. He told Adam and Eve, don't eat that. They did. And there's been nothing but trouble ever since. We brag in America that we got streets and traffic lights and infrastructure, and we got a great country. This is all the result of the fall. In the garden, you didn't need a car. You didn't need AC. You didn't need a Blaupunkt stereo. Ever since we sinned, we've been looking for fulfillment in all the wrong places. We're all guilty of it. You are, you man and woman, and right here. Can I be very crude and blunt? Many of us men believe that if we have the Taj Mahal woman, that will be the ultimate orgasm to end all orgasms. Can I tell you something? I've lusted after probably in the neighborhood of 100,000 women in the course of my puberty on up. Did you know that each woman that comes along is just a little bit different and a little more intriguing? It's a hole that can't be filled. How about drug addiction? How's that working for you? Sniff this, swallow that, shoot up this. In time, it doesn't work. So then you got to up the ante. How about gambling? How many of you that have gotten into gambling actually went somewhere with that? Bought a new house, opened up an IRA. No, you lost. How about drinking? How's that working for you? How about materialism, consumerism, consumption of goods? How about being in love with yourself? The girls are all about that today. Facebook blah, Facebook blah, Facebook blah. I say that because I watch Filipinas. They're descending into the self-centered, myopic life. When I was with the Asian girls, I finally got to the point where I said, how many pictures do you got to take? We're going for an outing today. They will take 10 pictures of the same thing. Move 5 feet, take 10 more. Photo. And you know what? I respect that up to a point. But I watched Filipinas, including those that I knew very intimately. Selfie. Take more pictures of me. You know what? Does that ever get old? I don't take tons of pictures of myself. And I don't even take the time to look at them. Because I like to look at pictures of other people. I know what my ugly mug looks like. I don't need to see it. You know, Satan's no dummy. And if there's one thing I want to communicate to my viewers is if we think we're smarter than him, he's laughing. Yeah, we're smart, all right. We went ahead and ate that fruit. And everything from there on out is dumbed down. And the Lord said to Satan, verse 8, have you considered my servant Job? For there is no one like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, fearing God and turning away from evil. Then Satan answered the Lord, does Job fear God for nothing? Hast thou not made a hedge about him and his house and all that he has on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But put forth thy hand now and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse thee to the face. Satan was wrong. I'm sure Job got annoyed by all that came down on him, but he never cursed God. Can I ask my viewers, be honest, how many of us as Christians have really gotten mad and said things to God we should have said? I have. Right here, the heading above the next section, verse 13 to verse 22, chapter 1 of Job, says Satan allowed to test Job. Satan has to submit to the sovereignty of God, and you'd better keep that in your mind when you're going through satanic attack, oppression. And by the way, I want to cover a lie right now and dispel the myth. There is no such thing as a demon-possessed Christian. Jesus Christ specifically talked about that when the Pharisees said, he drives out the devils by the power of Beelzebul. Jesus says, really? If I do that, then how's my house going to stand? House divided will fall. You cannot have the Holy Spirit and the devil living in the same temple. No. We can give in to our flesh. We can rebel and turn our back on God as a Christian. We don't lose our salvation, but we're not walking in the Spirit. It's called walking in the flesh. And the devil can ride on that, but he cannot possess us. So let's establish that right away. Now, let's run back to Revelation. Verse 9 of chapter 12 of Revelation. And the great dragon. And let's look at the little footnote here. Verse 9 here. Let's see. Boy, these little bitty print is hard to see. Okay, it doesn't give an interpretation, it just gives a scriptural reference. Okay, so, and the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old. Ooh, there's that word serpent, the serpent of old. Where do we get the serpent from? Genesis chapter 3. And the serpent was more crafty than any of the creatures God had made. The serpent of old, who was called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. Can we stop right there? We're talking about the characteristics of our number one enemy. The devil, Satan, who deceives the whole world. When we're out there being rejected by humanity in our workplace, when are we going to get over our insecurity and start realizing, hey, so what? Marvel not, Jesus said, that the world hates you. It hated me first. And if they hated me, it hate you. No student is above his teacher. No disciple is above his master. Folks, when you got saved, guess what? You were thrown into a war that you never declared. Isn't that fun? Drafted by Jesus Christ. You're in the Lord's army now, and guess what? Whether you like it or not, you can be sad sack, and you can lean back against your little knapsack and put your gun down, and you're going to get your butt kicked. I don't like fighting. I don't like being confrontational. People have the wrong impression of me. Oh, you like to be confrontational. No, I don't. God has made me that way because of his truth. Most of the time, Pacific minds his own business. But there is that fighting Irish in me that says, you know what? You're doing something wrong, and it's affecting me. I'm going to say something. Political correctness is from the devil. Political correctness is the biggest whack of hypocrisy I've ever heard in my lifetime. And political correctness goes like this. You can't say anything against the blacks, can't say anything against the Asians or the Hispanics, but boy, we can sure crap all over the whites. You can't say anything that's discriminatory against the women, but women in break rooms, women in places of employment bash men over and over, and management looks the other way. Hello? I smell sulfur. Now, I want to be careful what I say because experiences are highly subjective. A person can lead themselves to believe that a situation happened to them that never did. There can also be a placebo effect. But I've heard stories. I've smelled smells in my life, and I'm like, what is that? Nobody's in the room, and I've sensed something. All this hypocritical crap, the media, the political correct movement, there's no such thing as political correctness. That's a misnomer. It's a packaged lie that says you cannot talk about these things. We're the ones that determine that, is what the media says. Excuse me, I'm not under the authority of the media. I'm under the authority of God's word. And my Bible tells me something that is power beyond what most of us can imagine. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Not your evening news anchor, Lion Williams. When we talk about demonic and angelic activity, make no mistake about it, that the philosophies of this world are from the pit of hell. To teach people it's okay to be gay, to teach students in public school it's okay to be curious and experiment, is demonic. Yes, Pacific has experimented. Yes, Pacific, even in a sinful state, I've admitted to my viewers, I've seen lesbian porn. It's hot, but it's wrong. There are things that titillate. There are things that are erotically arousing as all get out. Feels so warm and that orgasm's so nice, but it is wrong. Anytime you take and twist God's original intent for one man and one woman to procreate, that they have sex with each other in the context of marriage, and we in rebellious America define living together as okay, well, you got to find out what she's like. No. Got to test the car before you buy it, test drive it. How tacky. Let's have sex with a woman to try her out. Women, you might want to look at that, but women do it too. Well, because if we don't have sexual chemistry, it's over. Well, then don't have sex. My word. Are we on a roll here, folks? Are we hitting some nerves yet? I hope so. Satan who deceives the whole world. Here's the fun part. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down, who accuses them before our God day and night. My ex-wife is emulating the adversary, the devil. Accuse, accuse, accuse. People who are always accusing you. Now, it doesn't mean you're not guilty. Doesn't mean you're innocent. But people who are always accusing you, when you're trying to do your best, get away from them. The devil's the accuser. Oh, God. Look at Pacific down there, sitting and spinning over some topless woman. He's doing it again. Oh, look, he just yelled the F word. Oh, look, he's getting mad. You would think that God would get so tired of this nagging, railing, accusatory lunatic who himself disrespected God in the highest way. I shall be like the Most High. Are you serious? You were created, bucko. Stand down. These women that are standing up, competing against men, they're emulating the devil. I'm going to say something that's going to offend a lot of females. Know your place. I have mine, you have yours, and don't you dare tell me that you're over me. Only in a messed up secular world do I have women bosses over me. The Bible's very clear. I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over men. That's not just in a church context. That's in any context. I should not have women bosses. I should have male bosses. Am I being chauvinistic, people? Well, if that's what you think, run with that football all the way to the goalpost and think you scored a touchdown. You didn't. Because it's not chauvinistic. It's about recognizing the authority that only comes from God. Pacific has limited authority. The only authority I have is to boldly proclaim the truth. The only authority I have is what God gives to me. And when I've been assigned as a school bus driver to a specific route, I have authority over that bus. That doesn't mean I can do whatever I want, but it means that as an authority, I can say, you need to sit down. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Put your butt on the seat. I can't go to somebody else's bus and say, hey, sit down. No way. Not unless I'm invited. Not unless that bus driver's having problems and they give an all call on the radio. Do we have some drivers that can assist another bus driver with some discipline? I love those. I haven't had the opportunity, but I'll be there. Bells on my toe if I'm not in the middle of a route. I'll walk right down that aisle and say, what seems to be the problem? You need more babysitters? Sit down. people accusing all the time are emulating the devil. The devil hates you. Let me say that one more time. You're a Christian, he hates you. And guess what? You want to know what's really fun? Better than a slip and slide? He hates unbelievers too. Satan doesn't like people at all. He uses them as pawns for his ego. He's at war with God. He wants to take on God and be like the Most High, and he wants to drag as many of the objects that were supposed to be recipients of the grace of God, and he wants them to commit suicide, do drugs, be addicted, and do everything they can to shut out the still small voice of God, reject Christ, and go into hell. Satan loves evolution. Satan loves humanism. He loves feminism. They're all distractions. It's all noise and philosophies whereby men can puff and women can puff their minds up thinking we're intellectual. I'm a Democrat. I went to a university and got a degree. You rejected God. Way to go, sport. Looks like you're participating in the Greased Pole Olympics. Straight to the lake of fire. You need to get it straight. Winners choose Jesus. Losers stay in Satan's dominion. Success is not determined by how much a man makes. Success is not determined by a college degree. Success is not determined by how many material things you've got, or how self-impressed you are, or legend in your own mind. Because when the end has come, when all are standing before the holy, perfect, and righteous God, he is not going to look at, wow, you had that Jeep Liberty. Wow, that's cool. I'm sorry, women, but God's not going to look at you and go, gosh, you had a nice rack, girl. Come on in. You look hot. People in the world system, and even many Christians, don't think deeply about the ramifications of their silly thought life. Do you think that God's going to look at a Harvard grad who was honors, who pulled down $500K a year, who ran a Fortune 500 company? Do you really think God's going to give him VIP? Depart from me. I never knew you, you worker of iniquity. Huh? What? Dude, did you really think it was about Ivy League and picket fence dream and your car? No. This Bible's very clear. It is about his story. And most people in Western nations are guilty of building their little kingdom and their little empire. Most not really getting there. How futile. Notice he's thrown out of heaven with his angels. God says, you're out. Your time in here is over. I am cleaning house. Verse 11, chapter 12, Revelation. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb. What's the context? The accuser of the brethren. How do we overcome? Do we rebuke? Shout? Do we do the Satan dance? I'm going to kick the devil in the head. Every time I stomp my foot, I'm kicking him in the head. How many southern gals have you heard pull that crap out of their hind end? Really? Boy, that's funny, but that's stupid. Anybody remember the church lady, Saturday Night Live? Ain't that special, Satan? Sheesh. They overcame him by their good works. They overcame him by their college degrees. They overcame him by their nice SUVs. They overcame him by their women's studies doctorates. No. Wait a minute. Maybe I read that wrong. They overcame him by church perfect attendance, baptism. They went to Bible Baptist Church or Bible Lutheran Church or whatever. No. We're all stripped naked by this verse because it says, and they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony, and they did not love their life even to death. Guess what, folks? At the end of this great big ball game we call life, at the end of the game, there's only one call that's going to be uttered to each and every individual walking off the field. You're out, or you're in. It doesn't matter how smart you think you are, how hot you think you are, how many toys you got. It doesn't matter how many Facebook friends you have and Twitter tweets and ding-dings that you got. It doesn't matter how many fans you have. When the stadium clears, when the players leave the field, when you breathe your last, that is the day that you will learn what the word priorities means. And then, for most, it will be too late. You sealed your eternal destiny. You cannot pass go. You cannot collect $200. This ain't Monopoly. There is no bragging right for the Christian. The Apostle Paul said, the only boasting that we are allowed to do is that we know Jesus Christ. Did you catch that? Let a man boast that he knows Jesus. Not in your righteousness, not in your perfect work attendance, church service, the boat you bought, the new Polarises you bought, the jet skis, the Harley. We got to tell ourselves this over and over and over. That's why it says in the Bible to meditate. We spend time meditating on a lot of stuff, but not the right stuff. And the fact is, we got to tell ourselves over and over, this world seems pretty convincing at times. They're not. Remember what Revelation 12 says. The devil, Satan, who deceives the whole world. That also means that, Christian, if you don't grow, if you don't get properly grounded in the word of truth, if you don't get discipled, you will be a baby Christian, a diapered saint. Christian Huggies, Christian Pampers. You will be immature. You will be unstable. You will be carried about by every wind and doctrine. And you will do things in the flesh, such as what I've talked about in the last several weeks regarding others I know very well. Too many people want to say, I don't think this person's a Christian, that person's a Christian. I used to think that too. But it is a profession of faith. Just because one is a Christian does not mean they cannot do horrific, awful things that make them look just as bad as worldlings. I know. Because I still struggle with the words of my own tongue. The thoughts of my own mind. Can I tell you, if you were to put my thoughts on a video screen, it'd be rated R. Pornographical. Jesus' own words convict me like nobody's business. But I tell you that if a man even looks at a woman with lust in his heart, he's already committed adultery. Do you know how many times I've committed adultery based on that? Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times. Thank God for God's grace. Verse 12, chapter 12, Revelation. For this reason rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down. Let me say that again. Woe to the earth and the sea. Things are going to get ugly. All this drama that the news does about Snowmageddon. Sheesh. What is the news going to do when this stuff starts coming down? Could you imagine the reporters out there? Yeah, Barb. Hey, where'd that reporter go? He was just wiped out by a meteorite that hit the ocean that sent tsunamis in all directions. It wiped out half the coastlands around the globe. Oh, and by the way, the sea was turned to blood. Yeah, that's in here. You think that tsunami in Indonesia was big? Wait till you see what's coming. It talks about a star hitting the ocean. Go to a pool that's nice and common, grab a basketball, dribble it on the court, fly. When you're done, pick it up and throw it as hard as you can in that water and watch all the ripples that come out from that ball hitting the flat surface of the water. Can you imagine a star hitting the ocean in the middle of the Pacific? Do you know the shock waves that are going to come out from that? Are you getting the picture of what's coming to this world? The environmentalists are all about saving the earth. Have they read in Revelation what God is going to do to this earth? He is going to trash it. I mean, big time. Wow. That doesn't mean we be irresponsible and slash clear-cut forests and have belching, smoking diesel stacks everywhere. But come on, man. The biggest thing we're doing to destroy the environment is that we sin against a holy God. And there's less concern about that in American and Western developed nations than there is about our environment. The environment is the biggest deal. We care more about our pets than somebody's soul. The devil deceives the whole world. Can I have an amen? For this reason, rejoice, O heavens. Why? Because the accuser has been tossed out of heaven on his butt with all his little cronies too. See ya! Don't let the door hit you on the butt on the way down to earth. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you having great wrath, knowing that he has only a short time. Hollywood doesn't get it. Colleges and universities don't get it. Plastic, superficial women and superficial plastic men and everybody doing what's right, wearing the suit and tie and playing a little game. They have no idea the horrors that are coming to this world. How you doing today, Bob? I'm doing well. What was that? All those skyscrapers just tipped over. I mean, and when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman. Let's understand the woman here. That's Israel. The woman who gave birth to the male child. The male child is Jesus Christ. Let me make it very clear, this anti-Semitism, you think you're intellectual? You people who vote for anti-Semitic thinking, I'm going to tell you something right to your face through this channel. You who are anti-Semitic are following the devil. Don't even waste your time leaving your stupid, uneducated comments. I will not support anti-Semitism. People that are against the Jewish people are walking with the devil. Or as the song says, running with the devil. The devil is going to go after her. He already is. But he's going to really do it because he knows his time is short. And why? Because out of that, God had a bond with Israel. He had a covenant relationship. The Messiah was birthed out of that, and the devil is very mad. Why? Because the devil was defeated by Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. You have no idea what went on that cross when Jesus took all the sin on him. The devil lost that day. Forget about restraining orders, and forget about Egypt flying over and taking out ISIS targets. The devil got kicked in the balls when Jesus rose from the dead. I mean, goalpost kicking. You've never heard Bible study like this before, have you? Neither have I. And the two wings of the great eagle were given to the woman in order that she might fly into the wilderness to her place where she was nourished for a times and half a time from the presence of the serpent. Many believe that Israelites, that part of that 1/3 that will be saved, will be running off to Petra. And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman so that he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. Now, I'm not even going to try to explain that because I don't know. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon poured out of his mouth. I don't know if that's Satan sending all his flood of humanity after her, or if it's going to be a literal water crisis going on. But the bottom line is, it's going to be scary stuff. And the dragon was enraged with the woman. Why is he enraged? She's running away. Because I'm going to tell you something. It's barking up my own door right now as I speak. You stand on the truth, your own son could threaten your life. Isn't that fun? Jesus Christ said, I've not come to bring peace, but a sword. A man will be against his own son, son against his father, daughter against her mother. The enemies of a man will be his own household. Truth is a greater weapon than battleships and tanks and nuclear missiles. You stand on the truth. You believe in the truth. If God has a special relationship with you, the devil hates your guts, and he will harass the stuff out of you. And the dragon was enraged with the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her offspring. Who's the rest of the woman's offspring? Let's indent. Well, let me finish the verse so we can continue moving on. Rest of her offspring who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that they keep the commandments of God and they're the ones. Nope. For it is by grace you've been saved, not of works, lest any man should boast. Let's go to Romans. Any of you farmers? Any of you understand agriculture? Does anybody know what grafting is? My grandmother had a tree. San Gabriel, right on Roses Road, right at the corner. I forgot what the cross street was. I think it was San Marino Drive. She had a tree that grew oranges, lemons, and limes out of it. No kidding. It's called a grafted tree. All right. Well, bear with me because we're going to find something here. Okay. We're going to get into something here, so bear with me. Romans 11, chapter 11. I say that God has not rejected his people. Talking about Israel. Has he? May it never be. For I too am an Israelite, a descendant of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. God has not rejected his people whom he foreknew. Or do you not know that the scripture says in the passage about Elijah, how he pleads with God against Israel? Lord, they have killed thy prophets, they have torn down thine altars, and I alone am left, and they are seeking my life. But what is the divine response to him? I have kept for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal. Actually, the proper pronunciation of Baal is Baal. I went to a bat mitzvah of a young lady who was on my bus back in the 90s who invited me to one of the Jewish temples, and I got to watch her, and she said Canaan. Canaan. We call it Canaan, but it's Canaan. Baal is, it's almost like the Philippine word for foot. Baal. Verse 5, in the same way then, there has also come to be at the present time a remnant according to God's gracious choice. But if it is by grace, it is no longer on the basis of works. Otherwise, grace is no longer grace. There you go. If you think that keeping the commands is going to get you entrance into heaven, you're wrong. It says all have sinned and fall short the glory of God. Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, and the cults fail to take the whole counsel of God. They cherry pick certain verses, isolate them out from others, and say, if you don't follow the commands of God, say. Dude, you are incapable of following the commands of God to a perfection state. You cannot do it. You cannot have Jesus and follow the commands and think that between the two of them, that's going to secure your salvation. By the way, ask a Jehovah's Witness if they know they have eternal life, and they cannot answer the question. Ironic. 1 John chapter 5 says, these things have I written unto you that you may know that you have eternal life. That's what I'm talking about. What then? That which Israel is seeking for, it has not obtained, but those who were chosen obtained it, and the rest were hardened, just as is written, God gave them a spirit of stupor, eyes to see not, and ears to hear not, down to this very day. And David says, let their table become a snare and a trap, and a stumbling block, and a retribution to them. Let their eyes be darkened to see not, and bend their backs forever. I say then, they did not stumble so as to fall, did they? May it never be. But by their transgression, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make them jealous. Let's stop right there and read that one more time. I say then, they did not stumble so as to fall, did they? May it never be. But by their transgression, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make them jealous. Now we're going to talk about grafting. Now, if their transgression be riches for the world, and their failure be riches for the Gentiles, how much more will their fulfillment be? Who are Abraham's offspring? Do you remember the promise God made to who we start off in Genesis as Abram, whose name was changed to Abraham. Boy, I'm on a roll here. How about his wife? Her original name was Sarai. Okay, let's back up here. Let's go to Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Now the Lord said to Abram, go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great. And so you shall be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. Folks, Obama, all the others, you want to start messing with Israel, you got a curse against you. You can talk big, you can walk with your big Chester Cheetah grin, but you're playing with fire. And the one who curses you I will curse, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Somewhere else it says your descendants will be as numerous as the sands on the seashore. Who are Abraham's descendants? The physical offspring or the spiritual? Hello? Remember? We're jumping around here. Bear with me. We're having fun. This is called impromptu, by the way. And I started off with a format in my mind, but the Holy Spirit is opening up my mind as I'm doing this. This is awesome. How about if we get in the right gospel here? No, they're all the right gospels, but the one I need, that is not in. Chapter 9 of John, there's a man that's born blind, and he's healed by God, and there's this big dispute that goes on and on and on. Okay, hold on, I gotta find it. I think I need to back up. I think I got ahead of myself. Here we go. Thank you, Lord. John chapter 8, verse 31, Jesus therefore was saying to those Jews who had believed in him, if you abide in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They answered him, we are Abraham's offspring. Now pay attention to that. They're talking in the physical. They could trace their lineage. The Jews were very good at that, meticulous. And have never yet been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say, you shall become free? Okay, get this. They missed it. Because when you don't have spiritual eyes, you're blind. Jesus answered them, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who commits sin is the slave of sin. And the slave does not remain in the house forever. The Son does remain forever. If therefore the Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. I know that you are Abraham's offspring. See, he acknowledges the physical aspect of their lineage. Yet you seek to kill me because my word has no place in you. I speak the things which I have seen with my Father. Therefore you also do the things which you heard from your father. They answered and said to him, Abraham is our father. Jesus said to them, if you are Abraham's children, do the deeds of Abraham. But as it is, you are seeking to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. This Abraham did not do. You are doing the deeds of your father, they said to him. We were not born of fornication. We have one Father, even God. Jesus said to them, if God were your Father, you would love me, for I proceed forth and have come from God. For I have not even come on my own initiative, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I'm saying? It is because you cannot hear my word. You are of your father, the devil. He said this to the Jews who claimed to be Abraham's offspring. You are of your father, the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. What are the desires of that father, the devil? He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. These people of the world that are not saved, they're following a liar. They're under the authority of a liar. Whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I speak the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I speak truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears the words of God. For this reason, you do not hear them, because you are not of God. Boom! Shut down the evolutionists with that verse. You don't understand. You don't accept the literal understanding of Genesis. You don't believe in God because you don't want to. And you're not of God. People that are not of God come up with all kinds of philosophies, belief systems that are not right. After Jesus tells them all this, listen to the foolishness of these jokers. He who is of God, verse 47, chapter 8 of John. He who is of God hears the words of God. For this reason you do not hear them, because you are not of God. The Jews answered and said to him, do we not say rightly that you are a Samaritan and have a demon? He tells them they're of their father, the devil, and they're calling him a demon. Conviction causes people to really get ugly fast. Jesus answered, I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. But I do not seek my glory. There is one who seeks and judges. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he shall never see death. The Jews said to him, now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died, and the prophets also, and you say, if anyone keeps my word, he shall never taste of death. Now we get into the proof that Jesus is not talking about physical descendants of Abraham. Verse 53, surely you are not greater than our father Abraham, who died. The prophets died too. Whom do you make yourself out to be? Pay attention, Jehovah's Witnesses. This is a smoking gun against your entire false religion. Jesus answered, if I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say he is our God. Then you have not come to know him, but I know him. And if I say that I do not know him, I shall be a liar like you. I love Jesus. Political correct? No. He shoots straight. But I do know him and keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Now we're getting into who the descendants of Abraham were. The offspring of Abraham are all those who, like Abraham, believe God, and it's credited to us as righteousness. I'm a descendant of Abraham, and so are you, Christian sister and Christian brother. Praise God. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Now listen, Jehovah's Witnesses. The Jews therefore said to him, you are not yet 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham? Can you imagine the mocking? Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was born, I am. Now that was not a typo. He didn't say I was. He says I am. Capitals. Who else said that? Exodus. Who do I say sent me, God? Tell him I am has sent you. There is no clearer statement of Jesus Christ's deity than right there. Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to believe Jesus is the Christ, that he is God. They don't. All the arguing in the world won't do a bit of good. Don't waste your time. Shake the dust off your feet and say, you will give an account to God for lying about him. Therefore, and what did the Jews do? They say, wow, thank you for telling us that truth. We're so happy you told us the truth. Hardly. Therefore, they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. Why did they pick up stones to stone him? He didn't threaten them. He didn't vandalize anything. He wasn't being obnoxious because he said, I am. The Jews knew what he meant when he said that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're declaring yourself to be equal? You're saying you're Jehovah? Yeah. And your point? Ding. Bounce back to Romans chapter 11, verse 13. But I am speaking to you who are Gentiles, inasmuch then as I am an apostle of Gentiles, I magnify my ministry, if somehow I might move to jealousy my fellow countrymen, the Jews, and save some of them. For if their rejection, what is their rejection? Rejection of the Messiah, rejection of Jesus. For if their rejection be the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? Remember, the Jews cut off the Messiah. And if the first piece of dough be holy, the lump is also. And if the root be holy, the branches are too. Aha, let's get into graftation. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive, that's us Gentiles, wild boys, the wild boys are calling on their way back from the fire. And August moons surrender. Yes, I like that song by Duran Duran. I'm guilty as charged. And you being a wild olive, verse 17, chapter 11, Romans, were grafted in among them and became partaker with them of the rich root of the olive tree. Do not be arrogant toward the branches, but if you are arrogant, remember that it is not you who supports the root, but the root supports you. You will say then, branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in. Did you know that Jesus Christ, God, had a covenant relationship with Israel? Do you remember Jesus telling somebody the parable about the feast? Go to my people and tell them they're invited. Master, they won't come. We'll go to these people then. No, they won't all come. Then go into the highways and the byways and compel them to come in. If you're a Gentile and you're saved, you better thank God, and you better thank the fact that God grafted you in with the Jewish people. God has a covenant relationship with us now, once we're born again. He says he'll never leave us nor forsake us. He honors his vows. He doesn't divorce us. We divorce people because we're humans. God doesn't divorce us. Verse 20, quite right, they were broken off for their unbelief, and you stand only by your faith. It doesn't say by following the commands. It says you stand only by your faith. Do not be conceited, but fear. For if God did not spare the natural branches, neither will he spare you. Behold then the kindness and severity of God. Do you notice that? The kindness and the severity. Two opposite ends. These people that go to mushy Methodist churches and stuff that want to say God is love, God is love. He is. But God is a judge. The wrath of God, the judgment of God. God is not isolated to one warm, fuzzy teaching that we want to cling to, like a Care Bear. Behold then the kindness and severity of God to those who fell, severity, but to you, God's kindness. If you continue in his kindness, otherwise you also will be cut off. And they also, if they do not continue in their unbelief, will be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut off from what is by nature a wild olive tree, and were grafted contrary to nature into a cultivated olive tree, how much more shall these who are the natural branches be grafted into their own olive tree? For I do not want you to, brethren, to be uninformed of this mystery, lest you be wise in your own estimation, that a partial hardening has happened to Israel until the fulfillment of the Gentiles has come in. Hello! And thus all Israel will be saved, just as it is written, the deliverer will come from Zion. He will remove ungodliness from Jacob, and this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. From the standpoint of the gospel, they are enemies for your sake, but from the standpoint of God's choice, they are beloved for the sake of the fathers, for the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. And I'm going to stop with that right there. Folks, there's a lot of stuff here. We're getting into eschatology. We're getting into demonology. We're getting into basic biblical foundational doctrines that we cannot ignore. And I want my viewers to have an understanding. Zechariah chapter 13, verse 6. And one will say to him, what are these wounds between your arms? Then he will say, those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. Jesus, wounded for our transgressions. Verse 7, awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man, my associate, declares the Lord of hosts. Strike the shepherd, that the sheep may be scattered. That happened. The shepherd is Jesus. When he was on the night of trial, the disciples fled. The sheep were scattered. And I will turn my hand against the little ones, and will come about in all the land, declares the Lord, that two parts in it will be cut off and perish, and the third will be left in it. And I will bring the third part through the fire, refine them as silver is refined, and test them as gold is tested. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say they are my people, and they will say the Lord is my God. 1/3 of Israel during the tribulation is going to get saved, folks. I will not accept, entertain, or listen to anti-Semitism. Do I recognize that there are Jewish people in disobedience to God? Absolutely. But there's no place for anti-Semitism with a born-again Christian. None. Let's have some fun now. Let's talk about demon-possessed people. Chapter 5 of Mark, verse 1. And they came to the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes, or Gerasenes. And when he had come out of the boat, immediately a man from the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. And he had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one was able to bind him anymore, even with a chain, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been torn apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. I love these people that follow Satan and talk tough. Satan could bust you like a toothpick. Verse 5. And constantly night and day among the tombs and the mountains he was crying out and gashing himself with stones. And seeing Jesus from a distance, he ran up and bowed down before him, and crying out with a loud voice, he said, what do I have to do with you, Jesus, the Son of the Most High God? I implore you, by God, do not torment me. Now, what possessed these devils to come in and bring this man and do this? I'm not even going to begin to speculate. But thank God it happened, because it resulted in that man getting delivered. Verse 8, for he had been saying to him, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. Verse 9, and he was asking him, what is your name? And he said to him, my name is Legion, for we are many. And he began to entreat him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now, why did the demons not want to be sent out of the country? Because they had work to do. Evil work. Now there was a big herd of swine feeding there on the mountainside, and they entreated him, saying, "Send us into the pigs, so that we may enter them." Good place, devils. The Jews had strict rules about eating pork. They weren't supposed to, and what's a guy herding a bunch of pigs for? There was sin right there. And he gave them permission. God gives the devil and demons permission. Let me make that very clear. The Satan does just not come up into your life and do something without passing the authority and sovereignty of the Most High God. And he gave them permission, and coming out, the unclean spirits entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, about 2,000 of them, and they were drowned in the sea. And those who tended them ran away and reported it in the city and out in the country, and the people came to see what it was that had happened. Can you imagine? I mean, that would be a news story. You see 2,000 pigs all simultaneously roaring down the hillside and drown? That doesn't even make sense. Can you imagine people standing there watching this, trying to process that? They were more comfortable with a demon-possessed man on the outside of town running around making a bunch of noise and busting his shackles and chains off than they were with Jesus Christ. Watch what happens. Verse 15, and they came to Jesus and observed the man who had been demon-possessed sitting down and clothed in his right mind, the very man who had the legion, and they became frightened. Why? You'd think they'd be like, "Oh, God, thank you for delivering us. This guy's a freak. Spooky." And those who had seen it described to them how it had happened to the demon-possessed man and all about the swine. And they began to entreat him, that's Jesus. They began to entreat Jesus to depart from their region. And guess what? And as Jesus was getting into the boat, he obliged. He said, "Fine, I'm out of here." The man who had been demon-possessed was entreating him that he might accompany him. And Jesus did not let him, but he said to him, "Go home to your people and report to them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he had mercy on you." And he went off and began to proclaim in Decapolis what great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone marveled. Jesus is a gentleman. You don't want me, town? I'm out of here. In the land of Gadarenes was a man who was unclean. His name was Legion, for there were many. When Jesus came, there wouldn't be any. Yeah. That's a Pacific original, please. That's copyrighted, so don't steal it. Another account of that same thing goes on in Luke 8, verse 26 through to verse 39. We won't read it because it's there. When demons enter a man, it is not to make them feel good. It is not to give them a happy life. It manifests itself in crazy, erratic, off-the-chart behavior, so much so that the people probably said, "You know what, dude, you need to go out of the city and get out of here." You would think that the local citizens of the Gerasenes would have said, "You know what? You got some freak running around the tombs out there, and he is scary." Jesus comes along and heals them, and the people of the town ask Jesus to leave. Are we getting closer to understanding that when you are a Christian that you're going to be asked to leave too? You're not going to be invited to their reindeer games. Standing around rebuking the devil is fool sport. It says resist the devil. How do you resist the devil? By believing in the truth. When Satan throws his fiery darts, those darts are doubts. Those darts are, God isn't good. Did God really say that? You keep sinning, man. Are you sure you're saved? It says take up the shield of faith. Not an offensive weapon, a defensive weapon, the shield of faith. It's like those video games, man. You're walking in a room, you turn it around, and these darts are flying, you go, and your shield goes up, and they're hitting it, dropping to the ground. And that one time you don't put the shield up, oh, dead. Reset. The shield of faith is belief. Not that things will go our way, but that God knows what's going on. There are people out there that throw caca at us all the time. They hide behind their little lean-tos, and when you're walking down the street buying your own business, they poke their head around, grab that snowball, whack. Sucks. Now we're going to go to dragons. Because dragons and demons are not the same. A dragon and Satan. It's a Satan. The term for him is dragon. I did not look up the origin of that word and what it means. But I want to discuss to you, my viewers, that Pacific has a belief that is based on Scripture, and I'm going to read it to you and substantiate it without making anything walk on all fours. There's a reason that China has dragons all over their culture, as well as Japan, Thailand, Asian cultures. China has a 5,000-year culture. It is Pacific's express belief that dragons existed, that breathed fire, they were fearsome, and through whatever means, they're extinct, wiped out, slayed, whatever. Climate changes. Yeah, a lot of people make up stuff. Why does China and Asia have a lot of dragon stuff in their culture? Why? Too many Christians that are ignorant say, oh, they got dragons because the devil's called a dragon. No, bull. Did it ever occur to you that the Chinese 5,000 years ago saw these creatures? Job did. How do I know? Well, chapter 38 of Job, God comes down to Job and starts asking him a barrage of questions. The Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, verse 1, and said, who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now gird up your loins like a man, and I will ask you, and you instruct me. A little bit of satire there. It's like, all right, Job, I'll ask you some questions. You instruct me. As if you can instruct God. But God's going to work with him. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who set its measurements, since you know? Or who stretched the lines on it? Or on what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who enclosed the sea with doors when bursting forth it went out from the womb? When I made a cloud its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and I placed boundaries on it, and I set up bolden doors and said, this far you shall come and no further, and here shall your proud waves stop. Tsunamis have a limit because God says this is as far as you're going to go, tsunami, and that's it. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth and the wicked be shaken out of it? Have you entered the springs, into the springs of the sea, or have you walked in the recesses of the deep? Where is the way to the dwelling of light and darkness? Where is its place, that you may take it to its territory and that you may discern the paths to its home? I'm jumping around. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth a constellation in its season and guide the bear with her satellites? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens, or fix their rule over the earth? Hey, here's some serious questions about engineering. God's asking Job, can you do all this stuff? Do you know who I am, Job? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds so that an abundance of water may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings that they may go and say to you, here we are? Ha! Did you hear that? Roll call, lightning. Here, here, here. Oh, yeah. Then, chapter 39. Do you know the time the mountain goats give birth? Can you observe the calving of the deer? Verse 5. Who sent out the wild donkey free, and who loosed the bonds of the swift donkey? Verse 10. Can you bind the wild ox in a furrow with ropes? Verse 19. Do you give the horse his might? Verse 26. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars? He asked them animals and things that Job was well familiar with. There was no light pollution when Job walked the earth. Many scholars believe Job is the oldest book of the Bible. Rabbi Kushner and others erroneously say that Job is not to be taken literally. Who asked you? Rabbi Kushner does not know Jesus Christ. Anything he says regarding this is to be discredited. Wrap that up and sum that up in a hurry. Let's talk about something. Job asks him about Behemoth, and then in chapter 41, he goes into Leviathan. I want you to listen to the description of this and don't miss it. Pacific is not into reading things into the Bible. This, by the way, is how my cousin got saved. This passage that I'm about to read to you, my cousin asked me a barrage of questions for 2 weeks over the phone from Juneau, Alaska to Lakewood, Colorado, in the house next door that I used to rent. Because I was a stay-at-home dad, I had the time to talk to him for hours. Last question he asked me, he says, what about the dinosaurs? Nobody can answer this. No preachers answered. No Christian has answered, and you won't be able to answer it. Okay, what? What about the dinosaurs? Glad you asked. Let's go to Job chapter 40 and Job chapter 41, and let's have a little chat. He was sitting on the toilet in the Alaska Hotel in Juneau, his wife in the living room. And he shared with me later, after we hung up the phone that night, he shared with me 2 days later and said, when you read that to me, I was sitting on the toilet. It was as if though had this drunk feeling come over me, but I'd had no alcohol for days. And I got it. And I gave my life to Jesus Christ. My last argument had been shredded by you. I said, not by me, by the word. Verse 1, chapter 41, Job. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications to you, or will he speak to you soft words? Will he make a covenant with you? Will you take him for a servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird? Or will you bind him for your maidens? Will the traders bargain over him? Will they divide him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? Or your hand on him, lay your hand on him, remember the battle, you will not do it again. Behold, your expectation is false. You will be laid low even at the sight of him. Do you know some people said this is a crocodile? Or an alligator? Okay, you can put one harpoon through a croc's head and that's the end of that. This says you can fill his head with harpoons and it ain't going to work. No one is so fierce that he dares to arouse him. I thought the Bible told us to subdue all things. Who then is he that can stand before me? Who is given to me that I should repay him? Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine. See, people think they can work their favor to God. God owns all this world. You can't give him anything. Just yourself. I love it when people say, my house, my SUV. God owns all of it, and you're owned, buddy. The devil owns your soul. But God owns all the stuff you have, and he can take it any day he wants. Verse 12. I will not keep silence concerning his limbs, or his mighty strength, or his orderly frame. Who can strip off his outer armor? Who can come within his double mail? Who can open the doors of his face? Around his teeth there is terror. His strong scales are his pride. Shut up as with a tight seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. His sneezes flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning torches. Sparks of fire leap forth. Out of his nostrils smoke goes forth, as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals. Allegory? Nonsense? Fairy tale? Pacific doesn't take that stance. Are we so narrow-minded that we think that God could not have created these creatures, that they're just fanciful, man-made imaginations? Give me a break. The Chinese have long had dragons as their backdrop. That's probably the last place that they were seen living. His breath kindles coals, verse 21, and a flame goes forth from his mouth. In his neck lodges strength, and dismay leaps before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together, firm on him and immovable. His heart is as hard as a stone, even as hard as a lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty fear. Folks, there were critters here that we have no idea what they look like. We have no idea. Whatever this thing was, it was big, and it was the Terminator. Because of the crashing, they are bewildered. The sword that reaches him cannot avail, nor the spear, the dart, or the javelin. He regards iron as straw. Bronze is rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned into stubble for him. Clubs are regarded as stubble. He laughs at the rattling of the javelin. His underparts are like sharp potsherds. He spreads out like a threshing sledge on the mire. He makes the depths boil like a deep. He makes the sea like a jar of ointment. Behind him he makes a wake to shine. One would think the deep to be gray-haired. Nothing on earth is like him. One made without fear. He looks on everything that is high. He is king over all the sons of pride. Now, is it possible this is a description of the devil? Perhaps. Job wouldn't have known that. I believe in dragons. That's why my channel's been renamed the Sexy Asian Dragon. Our culture is deprived of so much richness. We get all caught up in an SUV with a plastic interior and a thin metal skin. I would love to have seen that beast from a distance. I was joking at work the other day. I said, I would love to breathe fire. You get on some of these junior high routes, I'd like to stand right in the center of the aisle when the kids are messing around. I said, sit down. And send a flame right down the center aisle that disappears as fast as it comes out. And the kids go, whoa! Yeah, when I say sit down, you'd better do it. Wouldn't that be a nice little feature to have? When my son threatens me, when Butt-Tard threatens me, I'd love to turn around and say, what did you say? Then everything around them is scorched, singed into a piece of burnt crisp. And he's standing there going, nothing. Get out of here before I light your fire, baby. Come on, baby, light my fire. That is not allegory. You need to take the time to read Job chapter 40 about the behemoth. And it's not a hippo. His tail sways like a cedar. The cedars of Lebanon were stately, majestic trees, by the way. They weren't little saplings. Anybody want to look at a hippopotamus fart video on YouTube? Type in hippopotamus fart and watch that flap a tail go like a propeller when he's taking a dump. Now, I don't know what God did when he created the hippo to do that, but that's funny. His tail spins like a propeller, and that poop goes all over the place like a blender. It's absolutely disgusting. The hippo's tail does not sway like a cedar. For ignorant men to write in the margin of those Bible, possibly a hippopotamus for behemoth, possibly a crocodile or alligator for Leviathan, is the height of ignorance. All one needs to do is read the simple face value description, and we're talking something beyond our ability to conceive. Hate to tell you this, but nobody knows what dinosaurs look like. We got bones, we got fossils, but we don't know what color their hide was. We don't know how thick it was in various parts of its body. All these paintings and stuff are simply mere speculations. Couple things we do have preserved perfectly intact. La Brea tar pits, saber-toothed tiger, Alaskan melting glaciers, woolly mammoths. But we don't have brontosauruses and triceratops. We know they were there, but we don't really know exactly what they look like. This beast that I just read, that's a dragon, my friend. He sets the coals ablaze. Any hope of subduing him is false. You go ahead and throw a battery of javelin, swords, spears, clubs, billy clubs. How come there's all these cartoons showing the caveman walking around with a club and his big dragon laying there? Because this was reality, not the caveman part, but that dragons existed. This isn't just lore. This is reality. You don't mess with demons. There's no dragons to worry about today. But it is my belief that China knew what a dragon was. And there's another dragon who has not been subdued entirely. He has and he hasn't. Let's just say that dragon's been neutered or spayed. I get my sexes mixed up here. When Jesus Christ rose from the dead, that dragon was fixed. When God kicks him and his minions out of heaven, watch out, earth. Watch out, ocean. For he knows his time is short. For all these ignorant people in America and around the world that talk tough, cuss, threaten, get into goth and blackness and darkness and ugly tattoos and gauges and freak themselves out and think they're bad ASS, Satan hates your guts and he will destroy you. And you're doing a good job all by yourself. The joke's on you, pal. The joke is on you. You're emulating your master, and your master doesn't care. It says he deceives the whole world. He's deceived you. You're in darkness. You are separated by your sins from a holy and righteous God. God loves you. God wants to save you. But you got to make the decision to say yes. So go ahead and threaten me, Satan's co-workers. Go ahead and do what you want to do. God will hold you accountable. And God will rescue me in his time, in his day, in his way. Nothing you do is your sovereignty. It must pass through my Father's sovereignty. That's what I'm talking about. Don't fear him who can kill the body. Fear him who can cast the soul into hell. That's God. We're not even supposed to fear the devil. How many times did angels and God comes, fear not, fear not, fear not. For God did not give us a spirit of timidity and fear. Why do we walk around afraid? I'm afraid to witness. Chicken. I understand it's intimidating, but what are you afraid of? That he might reject you? That she might laugh at you? So what? If God's moving on you to say something, say something. And if they laugh, say, hey, have fun with your laughter, but you'll remember this discussion in eternity if you don't get saved. You think I'm kidding? You think it's just weeping and gnashing of teeth and eternal torment? It is. But I guarantee you that their mind, how many of you have had a hard time going to sleep? We've all been through that. You're stressing about something, it's just over and over and over, like chewing on pumpkin rind. And it's just gnawing at you. Well, for all eternity, every word of truth you were told and you laughing is going to be replayed over and over. Anybody remember the Brady Bunch when, was it Peter Brady tossed the ball and the ball went down the stairs and busted the lamp? And the kids all went and glued it back together. And Peter Brady every night had this dream, and it showed the ball going down the stairs, the ball going down, the ball going down the stairs, the ball going down the stairs, and it was over and over. It is Pacific's explicit belief that those who reject Christ will remember every opportunity when somebody told them the truth, and that will haunt them for all eternity. Satan is a liar. His followers are liars, and they're deceived. Satan is a murderer. His followers like to make threats against human life. Anytime somebody's threatening your life, they're not walking with God. They're not born again by God. They're, dragons, demons, devils, and angels. And the devil hates Israel. And the devil hates the Christ. And the devil hates every man and woman. He'll goad you on, unbeliever. He'll make you have a false sense of confidence about your materialism, your success, and life will shine on you. I read Psalm 73. Why do the wicked prosper? The wicked do prosper. The wicked do have good health. They do have nice cars. I know, I see it all day, and they can't even behave themselves and be nice, using turn signals, stopping, going the speed limit. Their father is Satan. Wrong sense of priorities. The joke's on you. It's not about your goth, your gauges, your success, your weird and wacko dress, and your 15 million tattoos, and your hate and your venom. It's about the fact that you have had your attention distracted, and you're believing a lie, and you're straight headed for the lake of fire. That's why I chose dragon. The beasts that God made, the dragons and the dinosaurs, were cool stuff. It's testimony to the amazingness of God that he spoke the stuff into existence. Let there be. Pacific has had a struggle this week, but I found myself again saying, God, I want to be used by you. Can you get me off the bus? The thought went through my mind, what if you were asked to go back to that church in Spokane and preach? Would you go back there and live? I said, I would do it in a minute. But you didn't like Spokane. It's better than Denver. Boring, but it's better than Denver. If God ever calls me to go into any kind of ministry, I'm taking it. Not because I'm perfect. I was reading in a devotional this morning by Charles Stanley that God often chooses cracked, flawed, failure people to accomplish his purposes. I am one cracked pot. But so are you, Christian. Not many of you were noble. Not many of you were wise. But God chose the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. Maharani's made fun of. A girl at work who's from Mexicali's made fun of. Those that are true children of God. Maharani's cute. The girl at work is cute. They're nice. They have a heart. They're not mean. They're not vindictive. They're not threatening people's lives and throwing eggs at people's cars. They're not causing anybody any danger. But we are dangerous to a world of unbelievers. We are very dangerous. We are nuclear weapons because within us, Jesus Christ, through the Holy Spirit, has taken up residency in us, and we are armed with the sword of the Spirit. Dangerous weaponry. It's called the Word of Truth, the Bible, God's Word, and that causes people to cringe and to react in vociferous hate, revenge. During the tribulation, martyrdom is going to reach epidemic levels. You stand up and say you're a Christian, off with your heads. This is not a tolerant society. And I want to say something else. I want to get my boot in on this. Don't ever tell me that somebody's open-minded. There is no such animal. Liberals love that word. Feminists love that word. Open-minded means you're okay with people being gay and having abortion and women's studies, and that's not open-minded. Watch when a Christian comes in the room and says abortion is murder, homosexuality is a sin, and women's studies pitting women against men and to rise above them is against God's explicit design. Watch how open-minded those people are that you say that to. Tolerance, tolerance. I'm different than you. Political correctness. I'm a Christian. You gotta accept me. Gotta love me. I'm the baby. That's not the way they see it. I'll tell you a little secret. If you don't want any trouble, then put your Bible away, stop going to church, and live like the devil. Go chase materialism. Go find yourself a trophy wife. Go drink. Go do what the world does. They'll leave you alone. But if you are a child of God, God will not leave you alone. The Holy Spirit will not leave you alone. You will not be comfortable doing that day in and day out because God saved you out of the pig pen. And He'll let you play around in there for a while. And then He'll say, guess what, partner? You're not a piggy. Get out of here. Those who belong to Jesus Christ, now they're not going to be perfect. But those that belong to Jesus Christ, unless they're really immature in the faith and never properly discipled, they're not going to feel comfortable in that pig pen. But I will tell you, I don't understand some people who are Christians and the things they do. I can't even for the life of me. But I do know it's very imperative that if people don't get properly grounded in the Word of God, we can see some pretty crazy people out there that are born again, that are our brothers and sisters that are way off the beam in their actions, behavior, words, everything. Let me be very honest with you. If I don't walk in the Spirit, I could go live like a pig too. I have. But this stuff, I didn't write a sermon. I don't have any notes. You want to see? There's my lap. There's the closet. There's my Bible down there right on the floor. See that? I don't know if you can see it. There it is. That was all off the top today, folks. I know I'm a Christian because I understand that book. And my speaking it to you, I'm giving you the simple clarity of that book without making anything walk on all fours. I'm not teaching a Pacificism, a Calvinism, a humanism. I'm teaching Scripture. I'm saying read it. You'd be amazed at what's in there. I just read to you a description of a dinosaur that's gone. A dragon that breathed fire. How do you deal with that? We got a world that believes in UFOs and a bunch of foolishness, and then they'll laugh at the Bible. That's a pretty graphic description of an exact understanding of what many of the pictures we see out there describe as dragons. We have not one shred of proof of alien life forms. Don't give me that crap about Roswell and Area 51. I don't buy it. But we sure got a lot of stuff out there about dragons all through Asia. I wonder why. Talks about it in here. The only time the word alien is used in scriptures is when it tells us that we are aliens, those of us that are Christians. We're not talking about green men with demonic-shaped eyes. Okay, do you ever notice that too? That people's renditions of these aliens have demonic... Because it's a doctrine of demons. NASA spending billions of dollars trying to find some evidence of life on Mars. What a waste of money. We got poverty, we got problems, we got a failing education system because we're teaching people more lies, and we're going to throw money down the toilet. Well, there's water on Mars. As if. I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble with those that like to hold on to fantasies. There is no life out there. God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. He made Adam and Eve. The Bible doesn't say an Adam and Eve and Enoch from the land of the lost and some other planet, Neptunius, Plutonius, and Eurebius. Give me a break. You can speculate till you're blue in the face. What does this have to do with what is written in here? There is not one hint anywhere in here about life somewhere out there. Nothing. I will not entertain that stuff. I've looked at stuff like Loch Ness, Bigfoot. Bigfoot's a joke. Loch Ness might. But then they found out the guy had a little submarine with a little head that went around the lake, and he was having fun with binoculars watching all the people go, look, ah. Give me a break. People believe in that crap. And they'll laugh at this. You know what? For all the stuff that's out there that is ludicrous, this book has been under attack, and yet it's still the bestseller. The authenticity of this can be traced right back down. I mean, there's UFOs. I believe in unidentified flying objects. I can pick something up, throw it through the air, and if somebody doesn't know what it is, it's unidentified and it's flying. Little green men. More intelligent life forms. Beam me up, Scotty. Sheesh. You've been watching way too much Star Trek, Star Wars, and chewing on some Chewbacca bars. But we'll laugh at the thought that there was actually a dragon. It's all over Asian culture. It's all over their flags. It's all over everything. Dragon Boat Festival. Where did this stuff come from? Not all things that cultures do are like Rocky and Bullwinkle. Oh, hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Not all of it is farce. A lot of cultures have things in them that go harken way back to some ancient stuff that actually existed once. I hope this video has been enlightening to my viewers. I hope it's been educational. I stood on Scripture. I read to you Scriptures. It all speaks for itself. Demons exist. Dragons did exist. And there's a dragon still running around causing trouble. The devil. And be encouraged. He's thrown out of heaven one day and there's rejoicing. Rejoice, you heavens. Oh yeah, get this guy out of here. Picture of this Bugs Bunny voice. Shut up! Punt. Satan has access to the presence of God, by the way. But even as wicked as he is, he still has to submit to God. He still has to get permission from God, and he can't do anything that God doesn't allow. Wow, what a warrior. And all these little beastie teens and these little freak shows that are lacerating and destroying and damaging their bodies. And I am going to be opinionated about this. And if people got a problem, I'm not criticizing people that get on my channel and have a tattoo and saying, you're of the devil. Okay? And if any of you have gauges in your ears and like my channel, I'm not hating on you. But I'm going to say something. Graffitiing your body, lacerating your body, doing the things you're doing to your body, that is from Satan. God wanted you to have a tattoo, he'd give you one. That's lame, Pacific. If you wanted you to have deodorant, he'd give you a deodorant bottle. Well, there's common sense. Smells offensive. Use deodorant. Man seldom improves on what God has done. Women change their hair color, hack it all off, cover themselves with body art, and they end up looking worse. And can I use a word? They end up looking like SHIT. And you go, you think that improved you? The only people that love that stuff are people that are equally in that dark thinking. I know, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. I don't care. I've had a lot of stuff done to me by those freaks. I've seen the way they act. I've seen the fruit of their lives, and it ain't pretty. The gauges, all the piercings, they're evil. They're disrespecting. They're rude. They're lacerating and trashing their bodies, showing whose master they belong to. I'm happy about the new channel name. I'm happy about the boldness that's come back into me, and I want to thank Venus Star for that. Thank you, Venus Star. If you're watching this video, check your email. I sent you an email today apologizing for hanging up. I was too tender yesterday. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for caring enough to tell the truth. I'm human too, and I struggle with my humanity every day. You think I enjoy working with a bunch of fallen humans that don't want God in their life? It is not fun. We in America believe that everything's all about getting our paycheck and building our little kingdom. Man, we're in a spiritual battle. The world system thinks it's all about them and their agenda. The Christian, God isn't going to allow that. And as things start heating up in this world, God's going to start separating the men from the boys and the girls from the ladies. If you belong to Jesus Christ, you can expect stuff to happen. And God has blessed some of you with houses and lands and cars, and that's great. But he may also take all of it away and make you show your, and cause you to see in your own self where you've not been trusting him as you should. If you are putting your affection on other things more than you are God, he is going to rip it out from under your life eventually. The devil's a liar, deceives the whole world. Murderer. A murderer, Jesus calls him. He tells a group of people, you are of your father, the devil. Let me go a step further in explaining that out. All those that are not in Jesus Christ are of their father, the devil. You're not neutral agents, folks. Well, I'm an evolutionist. You're of your father, the devil. I'm a humanist. You're of your father, the devil. I'm a feminist. You're of your father, the devil. Those are all belief systems that originate with him. The Bible says a fool has said in his heart there is no God. I don't care how much garbage science is what it is. And I don't even like to use the word science because they've hijacked the word science and pigeonholed so much garbage in there that science doesn't mean science anymore. The only song I got to you folks is She Blinded Me with Science. You know what? There is no science to prove evolution. Science operates on facts, not fiction. I'm so tired of evolutionists saying Christians aren't into science. Oh, yes, we are. Louis Pasteur and a whole bunch of others were Christian men, and they found some very foundational things that you all rely on. Wasn't it Louis Pasteur that found out that life doesn't just come out of non-life? That shreds evolution too, doesn't it? The reason there's false belief systems is because Satan doesn't want people believing in God. Satan's primary objective is to hurt God, to usurp God's authority, to destroy what God loves. Satan is not our friend. He's our adversary. He wants to destroy us. He wants to shut us up, back us into a corner with fear. He's like a roaring lion. Could you please remember, his bark is worse than his bite? Because you know what the Bible says? Wrapping this video up, you got to go back to the beginning to get it. The first curse that God gives with the Adam and Eve and serpent thing starts with the devil. And the Lord God said to the serpent, verse 14, chapter 3, Genesis, because you have done this, cursed are you more than all cattle. And more than every beast of the field. On your belly shall you go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman. Oh. That anti-Semitism? That's a curse. And between your seed and her seed. Her seed is Jesus Christ. Now listen to this, viewers. He shall bruise you on the head, and you shall bruise him on the heel. When Jesus Christ was on the cross, Satan, like a snake, went right at his Achilles. When Jesus rose from the dead, Jesus put his foot down and said, "You're done, devil." To the woman, he said, "I will greatly multiply your pains in childbirth." Isn't that interesting? And I just read to you in Romans that the whole creation groans like a woman in travail with child. Yes, God saw all that he made and saw that it was good, but when we sinned, good no more. This earth is waiting to be delivered. That's why it's groaning. And tsunamis and earthquakes. And things are increasing. In my lifetime, I've seen 9-pointers. I didn't think that was possible. The Richter scale, 8 something. The devil harasses. The devil deceives. He lies. He loves it when we're fearful, loves it when we're anxious. The Bible says, be anxious for nothing, but by prayer and supplication. Let your requests be made known unto God with thanksgiving. And the peace of God shall guard your hearts. The peace of God that passes all understanding shall guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Why are we afraid to witness? Why are we afraid to stand up for truth that is absolute priority? Why are we afraid of being rejected by a bunch of materialistic, self-centered, messed up worldlings that are rejecting God? What is our problem? They're the ones that are looking stupid, not in their own eyes. And we Christians need to stand back, not be hateful of this world, but we need to stand back and say, whoa, they're not being successful. They think they are. They're living for this moment, not eternity. Dragons, demons, and angels. Hope you've enjoyed this, folks. Stay tuned to The Sexy, because we're going to be talking about a whole lot of things. And hopefully leave no stone unturned. Hopefully challenge your thinking and enlighten you at the same time. So, with that being said, this is Pacific signing off. Bye-bye.